Hi, my name is Trey Christensen. I currently work with diplomatic security, and I've spent the last decade or so of my life overseas working out of U.S. embassies around the world. Spending so much time overseas has motivated me to look into the possibility of living abroad permanently. With that presents many challenges from the start. Packing up and moving your family is already hard enough, so adding that international factor just compounds the problem a little bit more. Therefore, for my capstone, I am investigating the cost of living, crime index, and healthy lifestyles in countries and cities around the world. While I do have a personal interest in this topic, the data can benefit anyone that is considered making that move abroad. Here, I'm going to show my screen. I utilized Kaggle to find my data. Before my cleaning process began, I found raw cost of living data sets as well as data sets relating to crime index and healthy lifestyles. As I go over my coding, I will further explain my data sets. The importance of data and the dependency I've seen in technology has motivated me to dive in the data analytics field, which is why I enrolled in Savvy Coders. Along the way, we had the ability to work with Agile as well. Agile has long been established as a popular choice for project management, so working in an Agile environment throughout this class has been an excellent learning experience. As you can see here on the screen, this is a timeline. So what Agile has done is it's been able to lay everything out. We meet our deadline because we're able to see what needs to be done with our team. I'm able to see what my team has done, what they need help with, maybe what I need help with. They can see where I'm struggling. If I haven't submitted something or completed something, they can assist me. So it's a great team building, team interactive environment that kind of keeps us all on our toes. All right, and just kind of moving on into my data. So the top left is the original main Excel sheet that I worked off of. There's actually a couple of them that kind of just gave me a bunch of raw data for cost of living analysis. To start this off, I had over 5,000 cities, 50 some columns, just raw numbers. All those numbers represent US dollar amounts. So in order to kind of start the cleaning process, I needed to join the two data sets together to kind of make sure everything was included that needed to be included. I took this into SQL here, as you can see in the bottom right, and did just a typical left join, brought all the data in together, and that brought me out with about those 5,000 cities, cleaned everything, filled out some of my nulls that I was working with, which I will go into a little bit further here. And when I do that, I'm going to jump over here into Python, give you a look at kind of what I did with Python. So I brought in that combined, I did that left join with SQL, brought that into Python here, which you see. And then through this process, what I did is just kind of take a look at my columns, make sure everything came over. And then I wanted to find my nulls. I wanted to find out where I was sitting with my nulls, kind of the numbers I was looking at. So I ran here, found out my numbers with nulls. And then while I was scrubbing my data, I also noticed that one of the columns were ones and zeros, which coincided with how confident they were with the data they were using. Ones means they were super confident with the numbers. Zero means they weren't very confident, or we had a lot of missing numbers within those categories. So I ran a query just to get all the ones, took away all the zeros because I didn't want to work with those. So that's what I did here. That brought me down to 983 cities, same amount of columns. And then when I ran my null statement, I was able to eliminate a lot of those nulls. There's still some nulls which we were manageable, but it took out those, taking out that zero took out a lot of those nulls. Went down here, I went and relabeled some of my relabeled all of my columns because they were numbers. I added names to them to make them more readable once I put them back over. And then I wrote them to a CSV. And then from there, I will jump back in my presentation here. So this is what I did here with my nulls. As you can see, I brought them over here. Everything's relabeled, reassigned. around my nulls in there, and some of the data that I was looking at had nulls, and I didn't want to just leave those as zero because I was kind of doing some averages and didn't want to have that mess up my averages or skew the results in any way. So what I did was, for example, here I'm working on primary school career. You can see there's a few nulls in there. Is I found the average for the entire group, and then which down here it's at 9,677.88. What I did is took all my nulls and inputted that average, so at least my average was going to stay the same across the board, and these nulls wouldn't really skew my average up or down in any way, shape, or form. From there, I had a couple other data sheets, my crime index and my health and safety that I went in there, or my healthy lifestyle that I went in there and cleaned up as well, which added, did some splitting, text to columns to do that. I got rid of some duplicates on my main Excel, and then from there, I was ready to take it into Tableau, which we will go in here. Give this a second to load up. All right, this first one here is what this is the monthly cost of an apartment in the city center around the world. So I did pull out my high-end numbers here because they were really skewing my color scheme. So locations such as New York, so New York City, Singapore, some of the higher end locations were more expensive and just completely skewed the color scheme on the map. So I pulled out some of those very high places because that's not what we were looking at to begin with anyway. So once I pull those out, this gives you a better picture. So anything in red is pushing that higher end mark, and then you get to that darker green and cheaper locations around the world in order to get an apartment in the city center of the cities that we're looking at. So just kind of a cool visual that everyone can take a look at there. And then here is the average cost of utilities and the average cost of an inexpensive meal, or just your normal everyday meal, I guess you want to call it. As you can see here, the utilities in countries, the lowest number of utilities are in countries that may not necessarily be as developed, or they have, maybe it's harder to get a little bit of data from. But some of these countries that you're seeing over here on your left are less developed countries, but some do stand out, such as Egypt. Kenya is pretty developed in their cities as well. Iran, India's hit or miss depending on where you are. So there are some higher names, especially Egypt. If anyone's ever traveled in Egypt, it's pretty well developed and established with utilities and without blackouts, that kind of thing. And then the average cost of inexpensive meals. As you start looking through these prices, the average cost of a meal is about the $8.49 range. So some of these countries at the top are well below average, and then you get down to the bottom and you're seeing these countries that are well above average that we're kind of looking to avoid if you want to live inexpensively overseas. But you also see some similarities that you're seeing some of the names that are matching up to your utility low cost, your average cost of meal low, and you start to see a little bit of trends that Egypt that falls in there as well. So it's cool to kind of see the trends come out. And then to give you a last visual here, we'll go over to Map Trio. And this is what I want to show everyone here is, we're kind of zoom out on these a little bit just to give everyone a world view. All right, so top right here is that apartment you guys have already looked at. Or top left, excuse me, and the top right is the healthy lifestyle rankings. I just pulled the top 50 out just to kind of cluster the map a little bit. And then the bottom is the safety index rating, so the crime index, how safe it is in each city. Of course, they use the green as the better results, the red as the more iffy results. And some conclusions I'm drawing from this is, if you kind of go in here to this Eastern European block of countries, you get a lot of orange or a lot of greens, and you get a lot of greens as far as healthy lifestyles. You get a lot of greens as far as apartments, and you get a lot of greens as far as safety index. The safety index, it could be a little skewed recently because of everything going on in Ukraine and Russia at the moment, but statistically, over the last however long period. It's been a pretty safe area. So we're looking at that eastern block here, the Serbias, Montenegros, Kosovos, as actually pretty decently priced places, healthy places, as well as decent safety ratings. Um, and then you can also start going in if you're willing to take away a certain aspect of something. I told you Egypt popped up a few times on my list. Apartments are super cheap. I mean, we're in Cairo, and an average apartment in the city center is $400. Um, it ranks in the middle of the pack on healthy lifestyle in that top 50 range. And then your safety index is not terrible at all. I mean, 60, so 6 out of 10, which is definitely workable, depending on your comfort level in doing that kind of thing. And then over here, I noticed a lot of areas in the South American region as well. The healthy lifestyle wasn't as prevalent there. Crime is what gets you in the South American regions, but outside of that, it's not too bad. So basically, in conclusion, there, all this data paints a picture of cost of living, crime, healthy, happiness factors. It does not take into account all factors. You can't determine someone's personal factors or what in making a decision of this magnitude. Things such as climate preference, whether they want to live by the beaches, the mountains, the plains, the jungles, cultural preferences, food choices, convenience of a normal everyday American ease of lifestyle. This data is great because it allows you to make an educated choice based on numbers alone. That are standard across the board, but it doesn't let you put in those personal factors when you are doing so. So that's the data I looked at there, and then I also wanted to give a shout out to Savvy Coders for giving me this opportunity. I also wanted to say thank you to my classmates who helped me out and my team, which was amazing through everything. And let me see here. I'll pull it back up. Thank you.